All right, thank you guys so much for coming. I really, really appreciate you spending just a few minutes with us. I am Elena Liscombe, also known as Janice Bierman, whose son is sick today, so she was not able to do her presentation. I teach 3rd grade, and we're going to go over quiz, trade as today's cooperative learning structure. And I don't know if you've ever tried to say that 10 times fast in a minute, but it is not easy. All right, the first thing that we want to talk about is why I like this structure. I use it a lot. My colleague Andy makes fun of me because every time I talk about cooperative learning, he's like, oh, it's going to be quiz, trade, isn't it? You're going to do quiz, trade again, aren't you? I'm like, well, yes, it's one of my favorites. It kind of takes anything you do to a whole nother level. Any worksheet, any test review, just anything that you do in your class, it just will elevate it because it's no stress for the kids. They have no choice but to pay attention because they have people in their face and they cannot ignore you and space out. Well, they can, but most of them don't. And everyone, with quotation marks, because there's always a couple kids, you know, who get by. But for the most part, everyone learns all at the same time. And in a nutshell, we're going to try it. The prep that we're going to do right now is going to take you about 15 seconds. And this is all the prep that you would need if you were going to utilize this in your classroom. So the little cards on your desk or on your table, if you could please fill in your name in the blank. Write your job description, and write one word to describe yourself. And stand up when you are done. Stand up when you're done. And that's just an easy way of monitoring when students are ready to move on, because when you see the whole class standing,
Today we're using stress.
Up to you. I did not specify. Michelle asked, are these inside traits or outside traits? And I said, it is up to you. It could be just a feeling right now. I could have gotten more specific and said to describe your personality, but I didn't, although I should have. All right. Thank you, everybody who is done and standing up. I really appreciate following directions. And I'm just teasing. I would say that to students just to pressure the slow ones to hurry the heck up. But in this case, it's just our friends. Anyway, so the way that this structure works, you're going to do a stand up, which you're already doing, hand up, and the rule is no bent elbows. There you go. And you walk around and you'll pair up. As soon as you make eye contact with somebody, so you have to be looking for eyes, you high five them. Not yet. I'm going to go through the directions real quick. And you're going to high five them. I do the person with the shortest hair goes first. So the person with the shortest hair will ask the questions that are on the card. The person then tries to guess the answer. If they don't know the answer, you use it's called tip, tell. You give them a hint, you give them another hint, and if they still can't get the answers after that second hint, you go ahead and tell them. And then the other person will quiz. You switch roles. The long-haired person will quiz. You praise each other. It's called a gambit. We actually have an anchor chart of gambits that we're kind of compiling in my classroom. We started out with you're a superhero, you rock, just little things like that. They're often silly because the kids want to do them. Then they switch cards, hence the trade in quiz, trade. Switch cards, and then you repeat. Stand up, hand up, pair up, looking for eyes, high five, over and over until I call time. So you may begin.
Hello, friend. How are you this morning?
Awesome, thank you guys. So time is up. So a couple of things that I noticed, you guys, at the beginning, my directions were not clear. Some people were doing things very, very differently. So as a teacher, what should I have done or what could I have done if I was working with students, if they got up and I realized, yeah, we're not all doing this right. Angie, what do you think? I could have modeled it first. That would maybe pull a volunteer up and done it with modeled with a student before I let the whole class go at it. Tracy?
Ask the kids to repeat the directions to you.
That is fantastic. She said ask the kids to repeat the directions back to you. That is an awesome idea.
That's what I was going to say, because it wasn't your directions, it was my listening.
Oh, very good. So Linda said sometimes it's not the directions, it's the listening and lack of coffee. Very good. Or feed your students coffee in the morning. That would work too. All right, so really really, that is about it, you guys. What did you like about the structure? Or what went well, or what did you like about it? Gets them moving, which research shows that movement increases oxygen and sugar to the brain, which increases awareness, awakeness, and engagement. So good. What else did you like about it?
You would set it up so that you can reinforce the things that you want to reinforce. So you could cut loads, like you could put 5 in of the same.
You could put 5 of the same question in there. If it's just a few things, they could hit it more than once. They could hit the same thing. And a lot of times they'll say, I already got that question. I'll say, that's okay, because you'll remember it even better. That's a great point. What else do you like about this one?
They're doing repetition without getting bored.
They don't get bored.
Remembering what they just did because in a shorter amount of time.
Yep, in a short amount of time, a lot of repetition. And Daisy?
And they match up with different people every time, so you're not
So they're meeting different people. Yeah, meeting different people every time. Angie?
I was just saying it teaches kids to have conversations.
Social skills, eye contact, speak in a voice that other people can hear and understand. Absolutely. Angie?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Sherry?
What do you do if you're trying to like cover curriculum? So when you said you could have more questions, do you like say this group's gonna do one question, this group's gonna do another, and this group's gonna do another, and then send them to do the activity?
Oh, the question was, what would you do with curriculum if you wanted to teach new curriculum?
Or let's say you were summarizing, you were doing it as an end of the thing.
Oh, that is a really okay. I think what you're saying is, how do you get the kids to kind of come up with the answers?
Or how do you make sure that you have one, like say you want to cover 20 things, how do you make sure those 20 things
You have a
are
variety of
covered?
answers. Okay, I would say, like I said, how I put these little templates out here, this one, because this would have been like a class builder, just to getting to know you. Some things that I would have done, for example, spelling words, is I could just print out the spelling words and just cut them apart. You could assign kids numbers and tell them, yes, you're going to do this topic. You could take a math test where you've written the answers on it, cut it apart, so then everybody has one question. I think it would be done as a whole group, and the big thing about this is there has to be usually one right answer. Okay, if it's open to interpretation, then you're leaving that judgment up to the listener, the partner B, if they say they're right or wrong, and then you can get into arguments. And so that's a very valid point, and it needs to be just one right answer that you're doing. Yep.
I like when the answer's on here because then kids who don't know the material are still giving the correct information instead of incorrect.
That is a very valid point. The answer has to be on there. Yes. You do not leave it up to if you know the answer or if you don't, because then what if both kids don't know the answer? The answer is always on there. And that comes into that tip, tell, where you give them the hints. Then even the kid who had no clue what the answer was in the first place, well, he becomes the teacher and he's telling somebody the answer because he can read it off the card, and a little bit of learning is happening back there. So is there anything that worries you guys about this structure?
Well, I didn't have a partner at first, so that was a little worrisome to me. So,
Not
really to me, but to a kid, I could see how that would be like.
She said to a student, not having a partner at the very beginning would be worrisome. And I said, that's when, if you have an odd number of students, that's when the teacher hops in.
Yeah.
And it's usually just that very first pairing, because everybody pairs up and one's left out, so the teacher does it. But then once kids start finishing at different intervals, it becomes a lot more fluid, and you'll see it kind of mix up a little more asynchronously.
Established that in the beginning. Like, is it all right that I don't have somebody to talk to yet? I'm walking around until someone.
It is okay. Yeah, it's okay to walk around without a partner. Well, that person too who's walking around without a partner, they're reading their card and they're getting to know that material really, really well. So when they do get a partner, they're ready to go. All right, the very last part, all I wanted you guys to do is just remember that you would attempt this first in a familiar context. I did not give you guys our school improvement plan to practice quiz, to learn how to do quiz trade. You would do this with very familiar context. Colors, shapes, numbers, just silly things, classroom procedures, things like that, just to learn the structure. And then after that, you can roll it out in content. And if you see it getting hairy, if you don't do it for maybe 3 or 4 weeks and you're like, oh, they've forgotten how to do it, they're not doing it well, do it again with familiar context, then roll the content back out. So I've given you guys a little chevron poster. Woohoo! We love chevron this year. If you just want to flip it over and jot on the back, just take a minute or two, ideas of how you can use this in your classroom. That is all we're doing for today, unless you guys have any questions. All right. Thank you for coming.